So, how did a small, pretty damp island on the edge of Europe end up at the heart of a global empire? It's an incredible story, really. This is a look at England, a nation that was forged by invasion, rebellion, and a revolution that literally changed the entire world. And it all boils down to just a few key moments. Our story actually kicks off not with the English, but with the Romans. Way back in 43 AD, they showed up and completely transformed the island. They built the first real roads, the first cities. They brought a kind of order that just wasn't there before.
And then, the long ships arrived. The Vikings came first as raiders, and believe me, they struck fear into the hearts of the Anglo-Saxons. But they didn't just leave. They stayed, became settlers, and added their own flavor to the mix. Their language, their laws, and that restless, adventurous spirit.
And then you get to 1066. If you remember one year, make it this one. It's the year that changed the course of English history, forever. A new king, a new language, a whole new destiny for the country, all decided in one single fateful battle. From all of that, a new kind of stability emerges, and with it, a cultural explosion. This is the age of Shakespeare, of the Globe Theater. This was the moment that really forged a new English identity and a language so rich, so powerful, that it would eventually be spoken all over the globe. And that leads us here, to an ambition so huge it would literally reshape the world map. We're talking about the creation of a global empire, one where the sun, as they said, never set. So, how did this little island nation manage all this? Well, let's find out. Okay, so our story really gets going with conflict. You have to understand, early England wasn't really a nation, it was more like a prize. A really fertile, desirable piece of land that it seemed like everybody wanted. It truly was an island forged in the fire of constant invasion. This timeline really shows you that modern England wasn't built by just one group. It's more like a cultural tapestry woven together by wave after wave of conquerors. The Romans brought structure. The Anglo-Saxons set up kingdoms. The Vikings added their grit and their trading networks. And the Normans, well, the Normans came in and changed the entire game. Yeah, that final invasion in 1066, that was the domino that set absolutely everything else in motion. The Norman conquest wasn't just about swapping out one king for another. It was a total rewiring of the country's entire power structure. William the Conqueror didn't just win a battle. He basically imported a whole new system of power from France. Suddenly, you have a French-speaking aristocracy and a super powerful, centralized monarchy in charge. And, well, whenever you give monarchs that much unchecked power, it's really only a matter of time before people start to push back.
And that pushback, it came in the form of this document, the Magna Carta. Now, this wasn't some high-minded philosophical treaty. It was a raw power play. You had these rebellious barons who were just sick of King John's endless taxes, and they literally forced him to sign on the dotted line, establishing a principle that was, well, revolutionary.
And these are the core ideas that would change everything. For the first time, it was written down that the king himself was not above the law. Just think about that. It also established the right to a fair trial and protected people from getting thrown in jail for no reason. I mean, these ideas might seem totally obvious to us now, but in 1215, they were radical. This document was the seed from which Parliament, the rule of law, and even modern democracy itself would eventually grow. So this new balance of power kind of simmers for a few hundred years, until the next massive shakeup, the Tudor period. This era was filled with chaos, but it was out of all that religious turmoil that a new, much stronger English identity was finally going to be forged.
And the trigger for all this? It was King Henry VIII wanting a divorce. Seriously, the Pope in Rome said no, so Henry just broke away from the Catholic Church entirely, basically tearing the country in two. In doing that, he created the Church of England, centralized power like never before, and cut the country's main religious tie to the rest of Europe.
After decades of religious fighting, it was Henry's daughter, Queen Elizabeth I, who really solidified this new reality. Her mantra was basically a single monarch, a single church, a single nation. England was now a powerful, centralized Protestant state with its own distinct identity. And for the very first time, it was stable enough to start looking outwards, beyond its own shores. And boy, did it look outwards. That newfound stability was the perfect launchpad for what happened next: global expansion. But here's the thing. The British Empire wasn't just built on military strength. No, it was fueled by a technological revolution that gave this small island an almost unbelievable advantage over everyone else. Just stop and think about that number for a second. 400 million people. At its absolute peak, the British Empire governed nearly a quarter of the entire world's population. How on earth did they manage that? The answer? The Industrial Revolution. This chart right here says it all. Look at how dominant Britain was. Its factories were churning out more goods than its main rivals combined. This incredible economic engine, the workshop of the world, is what funded a global navy, armed its armies, and powered the expansion of the biggest empire in human history. But, as we all know, no empire lasts forever. The 20th century, with its two absolutely devastating world wars, completely shattered that old order. This was the final chapter in the imperial story, the long, slow sunset of an era. I mean, the contrast is just staggering. The Britain of 1914 was the undisputed world superpower, a massive creditor nation at the heart of a vast empire. Fast forward to today, and Britain is a middle power, linked to its old colonies through the voluntary Commonwealth, with an economy that's all about services, not manufacturing. The cost of fighting and winning 2 world wars, well, it had changed everything. And you've got to realize, this wasn't just a political or an economic shift, it was a deep psychological one. For centuries, England's identity was completely tied to being the heart of an empire. So when that was gone, the country had to ask itself a really fundamental question. What are we now? Which, of course, brings us to today. From Romans and Vikings to kings and parliaments, from being the world's workshop to the end of empire, England has been in a constant state of reinvention. After 2,000 years of all that turmoil and transformation, the ultimate question still hangs